Support the GWM Mission to Africa 2022. To God be the glory. The Global Wisdom Missions, GWM, is embarking on an international missions trip to East Africa and Southern Africa in 2022. The missions trip shall include the hosting of the Intermission Mission Conference, the School of Ministry, the Medical Mission, and the Clean Water Borehole Project. The programs are scheduled to be hosted in the city of Kitwe in Zambia and the city of Nairobi in Kenya. In these international mission conferences, Global Wisdom Missions will bring together thousands of pastors, leaders, and ministers of the gospel from both regions to train them in a 5-day school of ministry in the Ministers Training Seminar. Global Wisdom Missions has the vision of reaching out to young Christian leaders, ministers, and pastors with the purpose of preserving the purity and integrity of the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. The mission to East and Southern Africa in 2022 will be critical because it will be the first of its kind since GWM was founded in June 2020. Following the pattern of our Lord Jesus Christ of preaching, teaching, and healing, Global Wisdom Missions will undertake additional socially responsive programs to bring healing and hope to the communities struggling with poverty, sicknesses, and diseases. Considering this, GWM will travel with medical doctors and health officials from the United States of America, USA, United Kingdom, UK, and Europe, who will volunteer to offer free treatments to thousands of sick people in both regions. Additionally, the GWM will construct a clean water borehole for the selected villages in both regions where they do not have access to clean water. In view of the above projects, the Global Wisdom Missions, GWM, is asking for your financial support and donations to make these missions and projects a possibility. Find a place in your heart to give your financial and material support to this international mission and charitable project. Your donations will lighten our burden and make our work possible. We remain eternally grateful for your ongoing support. To donate, please visit www.globalwisdommissions.com or donate via PayPal at wisdomconference3@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon and good evening to everyone who is watching us from around the world. It is Global Wisdom Missions time with the doctors again, and I'm your host, Dr. Jonathan Laye, coming to you from Little Rock, Arkansas in the United States. And today we have a very inspiring session for you. We're going to discuss living with children with special needs. And I have a very well-seasoned panel here to help us go through this. And you may be wondering why we are discussing this. Now we have all over the world, we have children who have special needs. And a lot of times people don't know how to deal with it and or deal with these children. And parents kind of hide these children. They don't get them the things that the resources that they need to help them succeed. And I think at the end of this session, you're going to understand what some of these things are and how to deal with children who have special needs. You may have one yourself, or you may know someone who has one, and you could be of help. So call your friends, call your family members, and tell them to log in and listen, because there is a lot to learn today. And whilst you log on, please tell us where you are watching from, so we will acknowledge you. So to get into the session, so I have Mrs. Jacqueline Tatiloko, who I will give her the chance to introduce herself briefly, and then we'll go on to the rest of the panel.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline Tatiloko. I live from Hillside, New Jersey. I live in Hillside with my husband and two daughters. I am a special educator. I've been doing it for the past 20 years in the United States. And hi, that's a brief thing about me.
Okay, so next we will go to Mrs. Selassie Beaumont.
Hello. My name is Selassie Beaumont. I am a pastor by calling, and I pastor a church in London, North London, with my husband, Reverend Grant Beaumont. I originally trained in finance, and I concurrently did a training as a teacher in Ghana. I subsequently had to go into social work, so I did a master's in social work, which got me practicing as a social worker. I think since my middle child was about 1, I started that training. So that is almost 18 years of experience. And I have worked in the public sector as a frontline children and families social worker. And my last position before I resigned 5 years ago was as a team manager in a social services department, actually a SEND, Special Educational Needs and Disabilities Department in an inner London borough. So that is a bit about me and my past. Currently, I work with families, especially mothers over 35, towards health and balance in their bodies and in their families.
Thank you so much. And next we have Mrs. Mary Amuakufor.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It's such a privilege to be here with you and to share and learn as well. I'm a teacher by profession. I'm a mother of 3, and I run a center in Ghana called Clicks Africa Foundation that gives support to young adults on the autism spectrum. Recently, we also started an early intervention support, and I'm here to share with you this evening. My last born is also on the spectrum, so I'm a special needs mother.
Thank you so much. So you may be wondering why we have this panel. As they introduce themselves, Jacqueline is a special needs or special educator. So she educates children with special needs. Pastor Selassie has talked about her experience in dealing with special needs children and families, but she also has a child with special needs, and Mary also has a child with special needs. So I think we are not just going to talk about theories, we are going to talk about experience. And I think that is why this session is very, very important. And so we will dive in. And again, when we talk about children with special needs, it falls into there are several types of special needs. And so it could be Down syndrome, it could be the autism spectrum disorders, it could be speech delay, it could be developmental delay, Asperger's syndrome, and all kinds of other conditions that children may have that may make them fall into the category of having special needs. So that means that these children need extra resources compared to other children. And today, I think we are going to focus mainly on the autism spectrum disorder, because that's what our two panelists have experience with. But I think that all that we're going to discuss here is going to be helpful no matter what your child has if they have special needs. And so we'll kind of go into into it. I mean, I know they've already talked about what they do, and so maybe I'll start with you, Pastor Selassie. Kind of, what is your family structure like? Can you, I mean, talk about it in light of what you do? You know.
Yes. So I am married to one husband, and we have three children. At the beginning of our marriage, we did not have children. We were told we would not have children. So I was a mother in waiting for a while. My oldest son will be 20 years old this year. And then my second son, who is the one with special needs, will be 18 years old in January, and he's currently in college. And my last one, who is a daughter, will be 11 years old this year. So there's quite a gap between the second and the last one. So that is my family structure. And all five of us live together in the UK.
Okay, so Auntie Mary, we'll come back to you with the same question. I mean, what's your family structure like, and what are the ages of your children?
Thank you very much. Mine is quite interesting. I got married very early, just before I turned 18. So I've been married for almost 32 years. I live with my husband. He is a chemistry tutor at Achimota School. My first son is a doctor in one of the hospitals here in Accra. The second one, it's at Tech final year, doing chemical engineering. Hopefully we'll be back home in September. And my last one, who is a girl, she's the one on the spectrum, non-verbal, but she's made a lot of progress with the right support. Like I said earlier, I'm a teacher by profession. So right now I live with my husband and my daughter. My other son lives alone working, and the second one is yet to finish university. So that's it. We are a family of five.
Okay.
Just like Pastor Silas.
Yeah, good to know. So, Jacqueline, can you tell us about? You said you're a special educator. So, what is that, and what does that training entail? Like, can you just give us a little bit of what you actually do and what the
Sure.
training entails?
Sure. So basically, to be a special educator, you're literally a teacher like any other teacher, but then you receive a little bit of further training in the area of how to meet the needs of those who require a different way of learning. You know, we all have unique ways of learning, but then depending on the condition or the situation that a child is in, there are certain structures that need to be in place for them. For example, special education is very, very structured. If it's not structured purposefully to gain results, then it's not going to be able to make an impact. So my training, I actually started in the University of Cape Coast in Ghana, where I actually happened to meet Pastor Selassie as well. We were roommates, yes. And I graduated with a bachelor's in education. And when I got to the United States, I chanced to fall into it, kind of, where I was thrown into a special ed class to be a substitute teacher. And I fell in love with it. So I asked what it required, and I was told that I needed at least 15 credits in special education. Now, some of the things that it entails is the physiological basis of learning. You learn how the brain works, kind of like if you were in medical school and you have to learn that kind of thing. But you learn it on how, so you can teach children based on their left brain, right brain. And then you learn other things such as accommodations. What is an accommodation? You know, adaptations, things like that. And then you realize that they are all basic things that it can be applied almost everywhere, but then it has to be used purposefully to get to achieve goals. So it is. I have a master's degree in learning disabilities. It involves how to assess them, different options to explain things, different platforms to use, and all that. And at the end of the day, you're not limited to one way of just orally giving instructions, but using every resource available what you can create, what you can get to be able to get to where you're going. So the training is basically very tailored. And then when you are done, you are able to make an impact based on that. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, yes, you did. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So I will go next to Auntie Mary. So can you tell us when did you find out that your daughter was on the spectrum, and how was the information given to you?
Thank you very much. So sincerely, I never heard about the word autism at all. And before Yah turned 3, I noticed that usually she will flap her arms, she will look at things from the corner of her eye. At night she would not sleep. So she was very hyper, would sing one song, over and over. But, nothing really. It didn't even occur to me there was something wrong. I went to a Catholic school as a child, and one of the Peace Corps volunteers at the time was a very close friend of mine. So, and she's from the US, so she came to visit us. And just about maybe 15 minutes of being with us, I think she was just observing my daughter. And she went like, "Mary, is your daughter always like this?" And I said, "Like what?" Then she said, "She doesn't respond to her name. She's flapping her arms, she's running in circles. Something is not quite right." And I said, "Yeah, I've noticed that for some time now." And she goes like, "Have you heard about autism?" Sincerely, the word sounded, it sounds strange. I said, "No." Then she said, "Okay, let's go to a cafe and I'll print some information for you." So that was my first time of hearing about the word. Now, we went to the cafe, she just Googled in, and tons of information appeared. She printed and gave it to me to read. Now, as I was reading, a lot of the things they were mentioning, my child was doing those things, but there were also a lot that she wasn't doing. So I comforted myself that it can be. But, occasionally, I would see something that was quite. Then before 5, we were staying at a secondary school, and a teacher was picking my daughter and his daughter for the crèche. I noticed that his daughter was talking, and his daughter was potty trained. Mine wasn't. Then the school also started calling, "Your daughter doesn't sit at one place." And so at that moment, I got worried because this was when she was turning almost 5. And so finally, I said, "Well, let me just go to hospital." And that was when I was told, I don't know if there was any day that took so long to end. It was that particular day. I went with my husband, after a series of questions and all that. The pathologist went there, it was like, "Your daughter is on the spectrum." And I said, "What spectrum are you talking about?" Then she spoke about autism. And I said, "Is there any medication to give me?" He said, "No, you must learn to live with it. And that if you do a lot of the interventions available, she's going to make some progress." In fact, even that I did not accept it until I was about 7, 8. I knew, at 7, she's supposed to be in class 2. And if she's still at crèche and running in circles and making noise and not potty trained, then definitely, even if you don't believe in it, something is not right. And it was very difficult, I must admit. I think the shock of it all was when she was almost 9 years, she was still not potty trained, and then she had a menses. That was the shock. But it's been a journey. It's been a journey.
So thank you. We'll go through that journey and see how far she has come. So Pastor Selassie, can you also talk about how you found out? Kind of when, and then how was the information kind of given to you?
I think what was really good for me is when I came to the UK, before I had my children, I went straight into teaching. And whilst teaching, I don't know, I think God just orchestrated my life somehow. I ended up teaching in a special school, as a supply teacher, and I found it really interesting. I found it very interesting, but I didn't want to be a teacher. I wanted to work with the children one on one at home, all of that. So it was during that year that I was working in the special school that I got pregnant with my second son. I had no idea I will have a child with autism. And sometimes one of the questions I ask myself is, did I pick something up from the school, whilst I was pregnant? You ask yourself a whole lot of questions in the eventuality of things, but somehow I was in the field from the teaching side when I had my son. So I was interacting with professionals. I knew how the professionals work. My first thought that something was wrong was when, well, I didn't think something was wrong. The health visitor did the home visit. So in the UK, when you have a child, it's no more at that level anymore. But we have health visitors who are nurses who come to your home to do milestone checks. So there are certain milestones every child needs to be meeting. So they come and observe the child to see if they are meeting all those milestones. So when he was about 1.5, almost 2 years old, we had a health visitor check. And she said, not to alarm you, I don't think there's anything wrong, but there are a few things that he hasn't quite hit. I need you to go to the hospital and talk to your GP and let them see if they agree with me. They will make a referral to a child pediatrician, to have a proper look. And I said, oh, this is nothing. She was worried about his speech. He was not responding, no eye contact, no, same things as Auntie Mary was saying. He was losing his ability to play. He would just sit at one place and look like he's in pain, stretched out on the floor and look like he's in pain. So we went to see the doctor. I went to see the GP. She said, don't worry. I said, well, I'm also not worried because my older one did not speak well till he was about 4. So I was really upset with the health visitor. I said, I don't think this woman knows what she's talking about. I mean, we are from an African culture. She wants him to be speaking English. She's only 1.5. What is she looking for? So I totally dismissed her, and then by the time he was almost 3, he had to go into nursery. And the nursery teacher was a very, very experienced teacher. She'd been teaching, handling children for over 30 years. So she got really concerned, and she said she wants to speak to me because she likes me, because she wanted to make a referral to social services to report neglect. And I said, what do you mean neglect? He says, my child is behaving like a baby that has been neglected or is being abused. When he comes to the nursery, he just stretches out on the floor and like he's in pain. He beats up all the other children. He doesn't pay attention. If he's not stretched out on the floor, he's roaming about, really running about. That is a clear symptom of neglect. At that time, I had a lady that was taking care of him that was living with me from Ghana, who would not listen to the things I would say. So I think from her conversations with the nursery teacher, it gave her the impression that he wasn't being well cared for. So I wasn't concerned about any diagnosis or anything being wrong with him. But when she mentioned neglect, and because at that time I was also training to be a social worker, I will get me cancelled off totally if any case like that came up. I took the whole issue up. I started looking critically into it. I started trying to see what could be wrong with him because I knew he was not neglected. So what could be the reason why his speech wasn't coming? Why was he behaving like that? It was really, really serious behavioral difficulties right from the word go. And he was also nonverbal. So he was not talking. And that was when I began to notice something was wrong. But he did not get formally diagnosed till he was 4. And as we go on, I'll probably talk about the processes in the UK and what is involved in getting an actual diagnosis. Because here, you are not allowed to just tell a child or a parent that they have autism, their child has, you're not allowed to label a child like that. They have to be assessed before you can put that kind of tag or label on them. So although as a parent, you might know something is wrong, even the doctors are not allowed to say that. They start giving you support from a lower level until they get to a point where they think an assessment has to be done to clarify and to be very sure that this is what the child is on, or this is the issue with the child. So that was our journey until he was 4, where he was diagnosed with a multidisciplinary team. So it was quite supportive, very nurturing. He was diagnosed at Great Ormond Street, big hospital. All the professionals. It was like I went to a Sahindrin, right? But they were all seated there. They all did their various assessments. They all sat together in a team to talk to us. But it was like they delivered a death sentence. That is how I felt, because they did not give me any hope. These are, white people, doctors and professionals sitting down. And they just said, we've looked at him. I think you already know he's autistic, and he also has a learning disability, and he's also globally developmentally delayed. We don't think he will ever be able to learn. We are going to write to the doctors in your area. They need to make a placement for him in a special needs school. We are sorry to tell you, we think he will be institutionalized the whole of his life because his needs are quite severe. These were their words to me. So that was my entrance into the world of parents of a child with special needs.
So thank you so much for telling us this. So I'll come back to Auntie Mary, and then I'll come back to you. So when you got this news, how did you deal with the emotional aspect of finding out that your child has special needs, and even the fact that, the way it was presented to you, that, you have to deal with it, and maybe talk a little bit about how not just you, but your husband and the rest of the family dealt with it, how your neighbors and even the church, how that went from the initial point of diagnosis.
Thank you very much. So we left, it was a clinic. Unlike Dr. Selassie, where you have a pool of professionals in Ghana, we don't have that. And even in those days, I don't think these days we are lucky. We have the speech therapist around now because Ghana runs the program, then occupational therapist, but before we didn't. So when I came home, the initial reaction was the denial. But I started praying, hoping that God would take whatever, it was away. I did pray, and then sometimes, the Bible says, for lack of knowledge, my children perish. So I started going for, to some of these pastors. And what we say in Chi Akwanchere, I have done quite a lot. I don't want to bore you today with it, but I remember one of them asked me to bring 6 different cloths, and I was given 6 white handkerchiefs, and I was to bath at 12 a.m. Now, the most interesting part of this Akwanchere, Doctor, I hope you'll be able to explain what Akwanchere is to the audience, but something like a spiritual guidance. So 12 o'clock, the first day, I was to walk backwards with Naya after bathing her with the white handkerchief. The first day was successful, second day, yes. Third day, we both fell. And then he told me we have to start the whole process again. It was very difficult, so I said no. The second one, I think I'll just tell you about 3 out of the many, and a typical African mother. And for me, I'm somebody who loves to talk. So if God is going to give me a child, definitely not one that won't talk. That one, it was something I couldn't handle. So the second one was, I was told to go to an open market, a very big market. And then after 6 p.m., I should go and pick the food that is on the floor. When people walk around, how busy our markets can be. Now I should pick those pieces of food on the floor, come and cook it for Nanaya. What that means spiritually is that anybody who eats, from the background, dirty food and all that, it means that spiritually my daughter's spirit or destiny is not fighting with anybody's destiny. So whoever is holding on to her destiny should leave her alone. I did that. I watched, nothing happened. And then finally, I was told to travel to my hometown. Close to my hometown, there's a river there. And it was scary. I was supposed to get there at 6 a.m., step into the river, fetch some, oh my God. The memories keeps coming back. And I did this. I brought it, I gave it to Nanaya. And, God forgive me. I remember my husband asked me, why do you have to travel this far? I said, oh, I needed to go and visit my mom. I came, but this is just to give you, a few, because sometimes when you are frustrated, you will do anything that is humanly possible. I did that, nothing happened. And then one thing that was very difficult for me to accept was also, I noticed that, most of our children have sensory issues. At the time, I didn't know. So, we poo and eat her poo. That was not something I could accept. To play with their own poo and smear it on my bed, in my room, it was very difficult. And my husband was very quiet. And at a point, he started praying. He really prayed. So at a point, we had to stop going to church because it was very difficult. If we go there, Yah will not sit down, And as soon as we get to church too, I think, how our churches can be noisy with a microphone and all that. So as soon as we enter the church, she'll go like this, block her ears and all that. So we decided as a family, we said, okay, we're not going to church, but every Sunday we'll go to Achimota Forest. My husband will preach. So my children and myself, we are the congregation. So we'll preach, we'll sing just like we are in church. We did this for many years, and all the time, Nanaya was a prayer topic. I remember very well, I also invited some pastors to come to our house to pray because all along, I felt that it was something that if I prayed enough, it would just vanish. So I was trying to do everything that we could. And I remember one pastor kept coming and he would speak right into my daughter's ear. In Chi, Pieko means leave her. So anytime my daughter sees that pastor coming, she will start Pieko. She started calling the pastor by that name. And what made it very difficult for me to accept was, if she could say some of these things, why is she not talking to me? So for me, in my heart, I felt maybe somebody didn't want me to be happy in my marriage. Somebody wanted, I had all these at the back of my mind until one day, I went on Facebook, I Googled autism parent groups, and there were many of them. I joined 52 of the groups, and I'll usually take a minute video of year's behaviors. And sometimes I'll put in a group and they'll block me that, this is too vivid. You can't post it. I said, look, I need answers. But some of them will reach out to me in my inbox and say, oh, okay, she wants to go naked. She doesn't want to wear anything. That is sensory. Start with this. I'll work on that. And then, I see improvement. So that also gave me some hope. But it got really difficult. My husband said, I should quit my job. I think that also brought in some depression because it was I love to work as a teacher, and having to stay home to take care of it because the nannies were coming, but I think I couldn't explain to them what was happening to my daughter. It was also difficult for them to accept. So they will come and within the next few months, they are gone. So changing people in and out was difficult. And I had to stop. As it was a collective, decision. But that was also very difficult for me until finally, in one of the groups, I applied and I was given a scholarship to go study about, it was a training, parent training. And I remember walking to Delta and asking them, I don't work, I don't have the money for the ticket. If you grant me a free ticket, I promise you, when I come back, I'm going to work very hard and I'll pay. I think the faith with which I walked in there, the country director, and thank him so much, He said, okay, we cannot give it to you for free, but it's $1,500. We are going to take $900 out. You need to pay just $500. I said, no, even that I don't have. I think my faith kept me going there. And finally, I was granted the opportunity to go. I was given the ticket. I went, I came back, I went the second time. And then I started in my own garage. I cleared the garage and I started working on yes, eye contact. Then I started working on sensory issues. I started working on requests. I started working on attention and listening skills. And I kept reading. And anytime, and that also happened because finally I came to terms with the diagnosis. But trust me, it took years. I think almost 7 years, still in denial. And I felt ashamed that, I will have a girl so beautiful, yet she was so different from my other kids. But now, looking at the whole thing and everything that happened, God has a hand in everything. And I keep telling myself that autism or no autism, this will work for my good.
Amen. So I'll come to you, Pastor Selassie, and then maybe after you, Pastor Jacqueline. She mentioned something about denial. And so after Pastor Selassie kind of finishes with her answer, I want you to kind of address that. What is belying that denial, and how does that adversely affect the child and then also the family? So
Sure.
Pastor Selassie, can you talk about kind of how you dealt with it, how your family and the other siblings of your son kind of handled it?
I think how I dealt with it to start with was I blamed myself. I started saying, I started looking into my life, my family life. What sin have we committed? What did we do for this to happen? Because, like I said, I waited for a while before I could have a child. So I'm a Christian, and I felt, oh, I'm not that bad. I haven't killed anybody. I haven't stolen anybody's thing. My husband is a pastor. If this is going to happen to anybody, why us? I was so upset in that, in terms of that area, and that was where my denial came in. I felt it was a test of my faith, that if I just prove to God and stay faithful, in a year or two, it will go away. Just pray and it will go away, because how can this happen to me? So, although I was in denial, what helped me was that I was also supporting parents who were going through the same thing. I had seen many cases worse than what I was going through. I saw what other families were going through. For a lot of the families, the husbands just left. Most of the parents were single mothers because the husbands could not cope, especially the African families in the UK. The stigma of it, the societal pressure, it turns, this thing turns your whole life upside down. Nothing is normal anymore. You can't do anything like other people do normally. Your eating, your family life, everything. I ended up, I think I ended up going into a depression. And every special needs parent will tell you, for me, even up till now, every year, there's a particular time of the year that my mood is very low. It is around the time he was diagnosed and the time they do his annual assessments, because we get reviews every year. I have about a 3-week period where I can't come out of bed. I break down, and so I generally tell people there's aspects of it that will never go away. You have to learn how to bring yourself out of the depression and out of the denial, and oh, God hasn't answered my prayer, from day in, day out. I describe it to people like this. As bad as losing a child is, if you have a child and the child dies, you organize a funeral, you cry, you grieve, you bury the child. Maybe you go and visit the gravesite every year. But when you have a child with a disability, it is like every time you are going through that grief without an ending. It doesn't stop, day in, day night, especially when they have their meltdowns. I used to go to school assemblies and I will cry from beginning to the end. I will just be sitting there crying because you see all the children on the stage and you know that my child is different. He's not doing anything anybody else is doing. Someone is standing by him. it's very, very hard. I can't begin to describe to you. It isolates you. It makes you feel like nobody else understands you. Even in your marriage, you don't feel like your husband understands. What tended to happen in my family was we all sort of just withdrew from each other. Around the same time, we were really beginning to build up our ministry, and my husband was really busy at work as well. And I think that for him, the way he coped with it was to be busy outside the home. So he wasn't seeing it a lot. But I had to sort of be in the home and deal with it. And I ended up, I think, neglecting my older son quite a bit, because the middle one became my whole life from morning till, because in the night you won't sleep. In the night, when you go to bed, he will be awake. He will be rehearsing everything that everybody has told him. It's called Echolalia. So all the words, and I'll be crying because you'll be saying things like, Zane, bad boy, sit down, stop misbehaving, stop it now. So everything that was told to him in the day, all the abuse that he's gone through, because that's what I call it, at the hands of helpers, teachers, and all of that, he will be repeating it through the night. And you have to sit with him, calm him down, do your toilet runs. It is a difficult life. So I decided early on that I will not let what the doctors say be the end of this thing. I felt that I needed to play a part. What made me not give up was he was nonverbal and everything. Things were difficult. One day we were in the car, we were driving, and there was a joke on the radio. And then he laughed. And then I said, oh, so you are fooling me. You actually understand this joke. You understand what this person, if in your head you can understand what they are saying, then you can learn. I just need to get your speech out, and I need to put you in the right environment, and you can learn. So then from then on, I refused everything the professionals were saying. And because I was a professional and a mother myself, it was a fight. I could withstand them. I could go head to head with the doctor. You say this and I'll say no. I agree with you. You are a doctor. I do not doubt your expertise, but I am the parent. I am the expert on it. I have to live with my child every day. This is what I want. So the advantage I had was I could come from that perspective. I literally divided myself into two. So although there was an aspect of me that was depressed and all of that, there's this aspect of me where the professional kicks in. And I know that if I don't get up and do something, nothing will happen for my child. So I set aside all my feelings. I knew how to write reports. I knew how to represent for him. I knew how to say the things that needed to be said. I knew how to, look, we'll go through a whole day and I'll write down every minute and every hour, all the things he was doing. When I go to meetings, I will read it out to them. These are the things he's doing. So when you say he can't do this, it's not true. I've seen him do it once. Now I need the support that will get him to do it more often. For example, he tried to talk, but it almost sounded like there was a ball in his throat. He could not, it's like something was choking the voice from coming out. So I told them he can talk. Whatever is blocking the speech from coming, you are the doctors and the professionals, sort it out. Show me what to do to get him to, oh, so you should see me in the house. I'm like a mad woman. We'll be talking, we'll be doing ABCD, 1, 2, 3. I'll be forcing. And I tell people, I believe every parent of a child with special needs, because of the things we go through, you get slightly unbalanced mentally. You cannot go through this without going crazy. I'm telling you, it's only God that keeps you. You get slightly, so there is no that energy to fighting for your child. Instead of using it to go crazy proper, you need to divert it to fighting for your child in whatever system that you are in, advocating for your child. So I not only did that with the professionals, I did that at home. So what I was doing at home was I had to put my feelings aside and model the behavior that I wanted my husband to do, or I wanted the other family members to do. So how to talk to him, the family dynamics, how we all eat together, what we have to do. I had to put all those structures together. But my professional background helped me a lot in doing that. And the result of all those things was he began to talk. He began to talk. The voice wasn't clear. As soon as he began to talk, they gave him speech therapy support to bring it out more. So, and that helped a lot. They will say a lot of things he's not allowed to eat. You don't eat this because he was very picky. He only liked crepes and very dry. No, he doesn't eat proper food. When we come home, I'll say you eat because you, not just because of you. I will not be cooking different foods for this family. You will not kill me. You will eat what everybody will eat. So gradually, like they say, oh, he's sensitive to egg. He should never have egg. He should never have this. I desensitized him. So against doctor's advice, sorry, doctor. Against, I did not do all these things drastically. Gradually, I implemented one thing at a time, one thing at a time. When it comes to the stigma, after he got his diagnosis, I never traveled to Ghana again. We don't go holidays, we don't go anywhere, we stay indoors. The only thing we did was church. And the only reason I went to church was because I could not say I won't go to church because we are the pastors of the church. In all honesty, if I wasn't a pastor in the church, I wouldn't go. Because for me, it wasn't, the worst thing was when people feel sorry for you. They don't say the worst, but you can see it in their attitude. They will say things like, oh, it's not that bad, but he's not even in a wheelchair. What should wheelchair people say? At least he's walking. And when you say things like that, it hurts more than just leave it. Don't say anything at all. Don't say someone's case is even better than yours. And then I'll say, do you want to live with him for 1 week and see whether someone's case is better than mine? So things like that. I remember I spoke to my father on the phone to tell him what I was going through, because he said, why aren't you coming home? Why aren't you coming? And I said, oh, this is what has happened. My son has been diagnosed with autism. As soon as I said that, I said, hey, this is not in our family. Where did you get that from? Wherever you got it from, go and sort it out. It has never been heard before in our family. I was so upset. And from that point, I decided I was not going to Ghana again. I'm not going to Ghana. I'm not going to see anybody, because if my own father feels this way, what will it be like with other people? So that was the aspect of family. The toll on my older son was a lot. It was a lot. Eventually, we had to send him away to boarding school to just give him space, because we just could not have time for him. We just could not give him the care that he needed. So that is about how it went. The depression, the guilt. I felt like I did something wrong. When I was pregnant with him, I was quite depressed. I thought that was what caused it. I thought I'd eaten the wrong food. There were so many things I thought I had done wrong. So getting over that, up to now, we all don't know what the cause of autism is. So you go through periods where you think, oh, maybe if I'd eaten more vegetables when I was pregnant, silly things like that. But it's dealing with that, those things, having the feeling like, I wish I could, as a mother, I wish there was something I could do to take this away from you. And also the guilt of hating your own child sometimes. Sometimes you wake up and you say, I can't deal with this anymore. I can't be doing this day in and day out. Why you, this one child? Why have you destroyed my life like that? That's the guilt of even feeling like that. And you can't even talk to anybody about it, that you feel like that about your own child. And having to sort out and begin to love your child and accept your child and see that the child is a blessing and not a curse. It's a whole journey. It's very difficult. But if you don't make that transition, you will never be able to get the results, the improvements and progress that you want to see in your child.
That was very deep, and I think that's very helpful. So now, Pastor Jacqueline, can you talk about the denial aspect of it, because both of them kind of mentioned that, and why the denial, and what is the end effect of the denial?
Okay, sure. All right. So denial is a very real thing, because nobody really wants that to happen to their child. So it is something that is, it's so real. And as we see in both cases, both of them were in denial. But then we also noticed that in both cases, one realized that I can do something about this earlier than the other one. Now, denial deprives the child of the possible help they could get to help them improve on their life and to be able to get over a lot of the hurdles.
So for some reason, you're breaking up.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. So early intervention is very important for every, for special students, people with special needs. It helps them begin to overcome the hurdles, step by step, little by little. Denial delays that. And when you don't get that help, either you may be stuck in that way or you may never be able to improve. You know, we have pockets of maturation and readiness for every child. I mean, whether you have a need or you don't, everybody has what we call maturation and readiness. Everybody's level is different. So as you are offering that child that denial, while you are in denial, that child is facing those pockets of readiness and maturation, and you are ignoring it because you don't think there's a problem. And then over time, the problem even gets bigger and it's magnified. But if we look at both situations, Pastor Selassie kind of decided that she noticed pockets of, like the day he laughed at a joke. He's like, oh, so you can understand this. Okay, then I'm going to make sure that I'll get you. And devised plans and strategies for her to be able to get there. Now, Auntie Mary, on the other hand, was still in denial for up to like 8. So if you look at both cases, you can even tell years down the line that denial could cost a little bit because one got help, the good everyone didn't get it at the right time, even though the help was continuing to bring people along. But these pockets of maturation are very, very critical. So,
we can barely hear you. What I'll do is I will move on to Auntie Mary and then maybe we'll come back.
And I fix it. Okay.
Yeah. So Auntie Mary.
Okay, I'll fix it. I'll look at what is happening. Thank you.
So Auntie Mary, you talked about kind of your journey. You know, Pastor Selassie mentioned the services that are available to her in the UK. So they even had, you know, people coming home to check on the milestones of your child, which you don't have in Ghana. And obviously, you know, you did not have the multidisciplinary team that she had when they assessed her son. So what are some of the resources that are available in Ghana, and how have you been able to assess or access these resources? It sounds like you mentioned that you turned your garage into kind of a learning space for Nanaya. So can you talk a little bit about what resources are available, and if not, how you've been able to manage up till now?
Thank you very much. I started looking for the support and also was able to be exposed to the resources. Okay. Because I wasn't in denial anymore, and I think that is very important. And if I could also speak from experience, and by virtue of the fact that I meet a lot of parents, it becomes, you know, the denial becomes like a hindrance. So when the parent is in denial, it is so difficult for you to even talk about it and talk about the support. So somebody sits right in front of you and they go like, when do you think my child will begin to talk? And you don't have that answer. And so anything else you say to them, you can see and read from their face that, this is not what I want to hear. So, and it's so huge. The denial is so huge. I will speak from my experience. I remember I never ever told any of my, family, that's my siblings, about Nanaya. And all the time I say, I thank God for that opportunity. It just happened. I just took one decision to go and talk about this openly. And I say thank you to my husband, because, in Ghana, you can't just get up and talk about things without having the support of the family, because it doesn't only affect you. It also affects your husband, your other children. They don't want you to go public about these things. And a lot of the time when people lose someone, they say that we need the privacy to go through the emotions, and yes. And I think people don't understand that. So that is the time people are going to call you, give you suggestions that they don't even know whether you have the money to take some of these things up and do that. So for us, truly, 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 it was really, really difficult. So I would say that only when I did accept that, look, where we've gotten to, I still can't close my eyes and say that nothing exists. And I think the first point of, call is the parent support group. This, learning from parents who have been on this road. I remember I went to the Autism Awareness Care and Training Center, and thank you so much to Auntie Sewa, the lady that set the first autism center in Ghana. The day I walked in and I saw, in fact, the first child I saw was in helmet, and I was like, no way, yeah. Later I learned, that child was sitting himself and the head, and so they had to put on. But when I left that day, it was so difficult. I remember she called a call. I never took a call, because I was like, these children that you have there, my child is not like that. And I get parents coming into our center. They walk in, see other children, say, these ones are the worst cases. My child is, but it's a spectrum. Your child may have difficulty socializing. Other children may have difficulty only in language. It's a spectrum. And autism is so complex. And that makes it even more difficult. When Pastor Selassie was talking, she mentioned something that you need to believe in your child. There are times that you're going to hear a lot of stories, but you know your child. You know what your child is capable of. But until that denial is off the way, how do you begin to believe in your child? She also said something like, you have to be involved. And that is so crucial for your child's development. You have your child's best interest at heart. All the therapists, no matter how good they are, they'll come in at one point in time and they will leave. For me, I keep telling the parents, okay, you don't want to hear about autism, fine. Do you agree that there's something wrong with your child? If you say yes, can we do something about it? Let's start right from there. It is very important. And people accept pain and challenges differently. Unfortunately, no one can force anybody to come in acceptance. There are a lot of factors around. I have seen parents, like a break in their marriage as a result of these children. I have personally gone through that. At the point I was separated, because it was so difficult for me dealing with it. And it affects every part of your life. It affects your finances. It affects your family life. It affects raising of your other children, your, social circle, everything about you. And one thing that we hardly talk about when we talk about special needs is the mental health of the parent. It is so important. I think everybody sees us, covering it up. I keep telling people these days, I've never seen people doing so much makeup like this time that we are in, because we are all trying to cover up. It is not what you see. It is so important. You can talk to a parent, you can see that they are just not present. And I have personally gone through it. Trust me, depression is something you don't want to wish, even for your worst enemy. And even in situations I have been very open and talk about it, people go like, sister, you're a Christian, don't accept it. Jump over it. But that is what I am going through. If I don't talk about it, imagine me. I remember sitting in front of, two doctors who were supporting me. And I said, look, doctor, everybody is looking up to me as if I'm, some superhuman. I am sinking. Emotionally, I have gone through panic attacks. It's hell. I have, been put on medication. And even sometimes waking up and you forget yourself. It looks like I've already taken my medication, because you take it every day. Even when you have not taken it, you feel like, and you need somebody who can understand this. I remember when I told somebody that I am going through something I've never felt. You know what the person said? Can you imagine? Like, you've gotten some money, you don't know how to spend it. So you are, but that was, people deny what they go through. And that mental health issue is so huge. I can only get up and make informed decisions about Nanaya if I'm mentally, stable. And we feel that, in quote, mad people are the ones that are on the street. Trust me, if you're special needs parents, you know what I'm talking about. You can get up one day, walk through the streets of Accra, and you remember what is. I have gone through it. And so even as we talk about people in denial and all that, the support systems, I think this thing is cultural. In Ghana, everybody wants to be seen as all is going well with me. With my family, raising my children, my marriage. And so letting people know the challenges, we see it as a form of weakness. For me, I see it as strength. To be able to open up and say, of course, we need to pray to God to give us a spirit of discernment so that you speak to the right person about your challenges, your fears. But I have gone through this. And it's all because I think we just ignore the mental health aspect of, going through the special needs journey. And imagine, we have been lucky to have husbands around us who may sometimes see, us and say, look, take a break. Or, I have staff and people who care about me. I have seen about 80% of special needs parents who have no support. When I say no support, in terms of somebody to talk to, who to even trust. And I think it's an area we need to have another look. It's so important. So yes, we go through the denial, but you need to have the support systems. The parent support group is extremely important. What resources are available in Ghana? One is the parent support group. Then later, I'll share some very good support groups in Ghana, where they have coffee mornings. We have WhatsApp, group. Even the WhatsApp, it gets so difficult sometimes that I need to delete myself from all that and say, look, relax, Mary. You need to take a break. You are of no use to your child if you are sick. Take a break on yours. Admit it that you need that help. So it is very important. Now, online, there are a lot of resources. And later, if I'm allowed to mention some of the online resources that you can actually print. But for instance, if you tell a parent, go to this site, you need to think, one, do they have access to even, basic things like printer, laminator. I remember when I mentioned laminator, somebody asked me, which one is that? I don't even know. If you're staying abroad, these things, I think you come across it every day, isn't it? But in Ghana, some parents do not have access to all this. And we have been so lucky. We are here, people who have access to internet are listening. There are about, a high percentage of parents who do not have that access. So I think education also plays a role also. Is the mother who has this child with special needs educated? What are the educational resources available to them? All these are very important. You have parents who go for speech therapy. They come back and say, they gave me A, B, C, and D. Where do I find that? And I said, did you ask them? And look, the cheapest you can get in Ghana for a speech therapy is about 100 Ghana cedis. And if your child needs this 5 times a week, we are talking about 500 Ghana cedis. That's somebody's whole 1 month salary. How do they get this support? So even as we talk about support online, resources that parents can access, we need to also ask. Some of these parents are not working. And come to talk about the challenges when it comes to, church. Oh my God. In Ghana, where everything is witchcraft, I remember one time I went for, this anointing service. And you go for the anointing service, they pour oil on you. Yeah, has a lot of sensitive issues where she doesn't want things, on her skin and all that. And that day when the oil was poured on her, she started going like, as soon as I went out, somebody walked boldly to me. Sister, could you see that the power in the oil, as soon as it touched your daughter, did you see the manifestation? I said, please, if you think that there's something or that there's something in my child that, the oil or whatever, please go on your knees and pray for us. In fact, I felt so sad that day. And this was an elder in the church. So I think that even as there are resources, even as we want parents to move from denial to acceptance, we also need to think about the mental health. It's so important. I know Dr. Selassie will touch on it as well, but it's so important. So important for the parent of a child with special needs.
Thank you so much. So, Pastor Jackie,
Yeah.
can you kind of round up on what you were saying, and
Sure.
then talk about kind of what are the educational needs of children with special needs, especially we're talking about the autism spectrum disorder, and how can parents in environments where they don't have the resources, like Auntie Mary was talking about, how can they even begin to help their children with their educational needs?
Sure. All right. I sincerely apologize for the break that was happening. What I want to do, I want to go back to the early intervention that I was talking about. What I said was that denial normally would take away from the benefits that the child could possibly get because the parent is still in denial. And that early intervention is the most important thing for any child with special needs. So if the parent is still in denial, then that child is not getting the help as long as the parent is in denial. So yes, denial is a place, but the earlier the parents got out of that place and began to seek the help for their children, and the better with that. One of the things that I also talked about was that every one of us has what we call maturation and readiness when it comes to learning, and that there are pockets of it. Everybody's time is different, and every brain can learn. Every brain that God created on earth can learn. It's just that they learn differently. So if the parent seeks the help, if we get to early intervention and take advantage of those maturation and readiness moments. And I cited the example of Pastor Selassie saying that the child laughed during a joke. And it was like, oh, this is my moment. And I believe strongly that was what turned it around, like she said. So then he said, okay, I know you can learn. So now I'm going to help you. And in that instant, she turned it around and he began to get help. And gradually it got better. Once they worked on it, it got better. And as soon as Auntie Mary also realized that, okay, this is it. I have to do this. I've got to make this work. And she started. Things started improving. So being in denial forever will only rob your child of a possible better life and a little joy for you yourself. So, like they said, no matter how crazy you look, get up, dust yourself, and tell yourself that I got to go do something. And you are the best advocate for your child. So if you are in denial, you cannot advocate. Advocating means that you're the best person to get the possible help for your child, like Pastor Selassie did, like Auntie Mary did. They had to find the help for their children. And if you are in denial, that doesn't have. So denial takes away from us. Now, concerning the resources that are available, Pastor Selassie has talked about the UK, and Auntie Mary has talked about what is in Ghana. I think that for developing countries, those of us who find ourselves in developing countries, because that is where the help is not available. Support groups are very, very important. Support groups in terms of knowing somebody who is also is going through something similar and learning something from them. Like Auntie Mary has a center in Ghana. I believe that information is the most important thing in this one. When you learn how to do something, then you can apply it and it will help. But until you join some support group or you connect with a network of people, you are not alone. That's what you need to understand. You are not alone. That's not your situation. And then when it comes to education, your child can't learn like every other child. So quit teaching the child that. Take little areas at a time. Like, and I like something that Auntie Mary said when she was taught. She said, I started working on the speech. And then I started working on the eye contact. You can't do all ballpark everything in one bit. You take small pockets. They can learn. They are not ready for the big thing, but take little areas. Work on how you think that the way you model the behavior you're expecting for the child and for everybody around them, so that at the end of the day, they will feel they are part of something rather than being the cause of everybody being, in, chaos, everybody in chaos, everybody's confused. Like an example I'll cite is when Pastor Selassie said, Echolalia, at the end of the day, he will recite everything he's been through during the day. This child will grow up thinking that he's a bad boy because every day somebody tells him he's a bad boy, and he's not a bad boy. It's just that he's going through what only he understands, and you don't even know what it is. So if everybody around you model the things that, don't blame the child. Get to the place where you don't blame the child, but show them love, reinforce them. Some of them, when they're going through their sensory things, they just need to scratch on surfaces. Get sensory things that are, rough, and let them scratch on it. It's okay, because then it fulfills what they are looking for. It's a reinforce, like it helps them to calm down at that moment. Sometimes a box of beans and rice, put it in front of them, mix those things. It's something we have used in the classroom for students with autism. We put beans in a bowl, and they'll be playing with it, and the feeling alone gives them satisfaction. They calm down so much. Or carpet, if for the scratching part, get this rough carpet. Don't get the smooth one. The commercial carpet is a little rough. If they want to scratch on things, like get carpet, wrap it around a piece of block or something, and let them play with it. Let them scratch on it. Gradually it calms them down. It's sensory. There's nothing you can do about that. They need fulfillment. I've seen students who are literally eating on their shirt to the point that there's holes in his shirt consistently. What do? We give them these young kids teething toys, like those, to pass, like a pacifier kind of thing, just so that they can calm the, the teeth, the desires to, like to bite on something. And these are little things that you can find something like a soft toy for a child, and then let them be able to use things like that. And gradually you see that you have a little more peace than always being hyper consistently. You don't rest. The child doesn't rest. Everybody's in chaos. But little things like that can make a huge difference. And when it comes to how to teach them, I think that should be a whole, it's a whole different, it's big, let me say, because we can't go into that. I can't really go into much of that right now, but.
Okay, so I think we are going to have a part 2, and then we will have you kind of do a presentation on some of the tricks and techniques. So so thank you for that. I think that was very, very helpful. So I'll come back to you, Pastor Selassie. So my question to you now is going to be a little bit multi-pronged. Okay, so you mentioned the mental health aspect of it, which Auntie Mary also kind of talked about. Did you kind of seek any help from that angle? And then the second question is, you mentioned how your oldest son kind of was neglected because you were spending all your time and all your energies on your middle child who had special needs. How or did you or your children, did they experience any bullying in school, especially the oldest one, as a result of his brother kind of having special needs? Or did your son himself also kind of experience bullying or other maltreatment? So that's the second question. Then, when you were talking about your son at the beginning, you said he is in the university. So this is a child who was nonverbal, you know, was on the autism spectrum disorder, couldn't speak, had a lot of issues, and now this child is in the university. So I want you to kind of talk about your journey. How did that happen? I mean, that's like a miracle. So even though it's loaded, my questions are loaded, but if you can address them for us.
Yeah, so let me start from the bottom up with my
Okay.
answering the question. My son is actually the oldest one is in university. He's doing mechanical engineering. The one with autism is in sixth form, what we call sixth
Okay.
form in Ghana. So
Okay.
he's in college. He's doing A level. So he's doing maths and further maths and physics A levels. So he will go to university next September. He will go
Okay.
into university. So just for him, what I did with him is, and my advice to all parents is, you need to take yourself out of the framework of academic learning to start with, right? So when you talk to most parents, they say, will he learn maths? Will he learn English? Will he write? Will he read? When you are coming from a very, really, really bad place to start with, where the child is not talking, the child is like what I had with my son, my whole focus was on functional learning. When I say functional learning, I mean learning about how to do things in life, not necessarily reading and writing and all. Yes, we did the ABCD, we did all of those things. But the more functional he became, we noticed that every 2 years he made a big jump intellectually. So the two are related, but somehow they don't tell us this. We think we have to make them read and write and do all of these things. When once they are beginning to function, because his main issue was behavior and socialization was his main difficulty, and also understanding and expressive language. So they broke it down to me. So these were the things that we were working on. And we didn't work on it in terms of, when you see the therapist, like Auntie Mary will say, they will only see you maybe 1 hour, they'll give you strategies. Now, when you take those strategies, you go home, you don't necessarily have to do it like a classroom. Factor it into your whole family life. When it comes to how you eat, bath time, bedtime, factor those strategies into the functional living, daily living. All right. So as they are learning how to do that. For example, my child will not make eye contact and he will not talk, but he will want something, and then you have a meltdown if you don't give it to him. So we have to gradually, one of the ways I got him to start talking is, I know what he wants. Instead of him pointing at it, I made him to start to try and say what he wants. And then if you are able to even try to start saying it, you get it as a reward. If you can't say it, we do a lot of acting. Oh, he says you'll be doing, you know what he wants. I'll say, did you mean the apple? I know it's not an apple. Is it the orange? I know it's not an orange. I know what he wants is the juice, but I want him to say juice, right? So you factor that in, and children are motivated by rewards. So you build all that into your functional living, them getting a reward for every behavior. Don't pamper them, because sometimes, because they have the meltdowns, and the meltdowns are serious, and some of the mental health things we go to. I'll give you an example. He refused to go to school. We will be walking to school and he will just sit down in the middle of the road. When I say the road, I mean the major road that cars are passing on. In the middle of the road, he will sit down. What can I do? I can't move him. So I also sit down. I sit with him in the middle of the road. Then the cars will be driving by. Then the drivers will be, they'll be insulting you. Like they'll, in abroad, how they do the fingers. They'll be doing it at you. What kind of mother are you? They'll be circling around us. And I'll sit in the middle of the road with him and I'll be crying. I'll put my hand on my head in abrochio. And I'll be crying with my hand on my head. And I told him, whatever happens, you will go to school. So he refused to go to school. We had to stay at home like for a year. He could not go to school because the first school that took him, when he went to the school, the first day of admission, he ran into the streets. And the head teacher said, we cannot have him here because it's against, we can't keep him safe. So he cannot go to school. So we had to go and stay at home. So now I had to be doing these functional things, teaching him how to do it. Then once you are getting the functional things happening, you will see that the child is developing holistically. As they are developing holistically, their behaviors are coming down. You have moments where they can learn, so that the whole day is not full of chaos. You have moments where you can actually learn. And then gradually you start introducing the academic kind of learning. My fortunate thing, which I discovered, was that my son is highly academic. He teaches himself. So teachers can't teach him. That is the problem. It's like when it comes to maths and stuff like that, you give him a maths question, he will solve it, but he doesn't want you to show him what equation. I'm not a mathematician, so I can't use the right words. He doesn't want you to tell him your method. He has his own method. He will arrive at the answer. And he just wants you to give him the space. So once we began to learn how he learns, we began to create that kind of environment around him. Don't stand on top of him. Give him the space. Let him try to work stuff out. And by so doing, we realize, oh, he's really gifted in maths. He's really gifted. He can solve long math equations. We don't know. He can just, I don't think he's a savant. The savants are those on the autistic spectrum that have very special gifts. But all our children who are on the autism, there's something special they can do. And as you focus on the functional aspects and you calm yourself down, you begin to see what area you can help them to develop. And their self-esteem builds up and they begin to enjoy that area more. And that area takes them out of everything. So that is for him. So gradually, he went into reception, what we call reception. At our nursery, we start statutory education here. At 5, every child must go to school here. If you stay at home, you would be reported, you would be dealt with. So he had to go into school with 2 support people, 2 to 1, because he was so strong. He needed restraining all the time. He needed 2 people with him in the classroom plus the teacher, because of the behaviors and the meltdowns. And those 2 people really helped. Everything they did at home, we followed up at school. We had a diary. They will give me records of how his day went, and we carried it on at home. And then we had the specialist teachers, sort of like what Jackie does. They were sort of a bridge between the school and home. So they translated whatever they were doing into school to how I can factor it in at home. So he was always learning, whether it was in books or in the classroom. It just continued. Here we have something called team around the child, right? So everyone, they believe that a child is a whole person. You can't just focus on the health or the education or the care. A child is a whole person. So when you talk about education or teaching the child, it must be holistic in every way. So you can be teaching maths at home in the kitchen. You are cooking, say, oh, how many apples are there? Count them for me. My son laughs at me. He says I'm a very bad mathematician. I can't calculate numbers and stuff. Because I will intentionally tell him how many of this, tell me, and he will quickly tell me. So all those little things. And then I have to give big credits to my husband, because my husband is a math teacher. I don't know whether that's where he gets it from. He said it must come from somewhere. So he is very, and that was one of the areas where we clashed, because he's very academic. He wanted academics, and I was more functional. But when you put the 2 of us together, whilst he was trying to focus on the academics, I was focusing on the functional, and this really helped him. Mental health wise, I just go crazy when I want to go crazy, and I isolate myself. When I'm in that mood, I cut off my phone. Nobody can talk to me. Everyone knows. I mean, if you call me, I won't pick it up. You can't arrest me. There's nothing you can do to me. I need 2 weeks to myself. I need 2 weeks where if I want to stay in my bed and not bath and not do anything, that is what I want to do. And so everybody around me understands that. My husband understands that. Everyone understands. Because I don't know what happens. It just happens. The doctors, they try to put you on antidepressants. I developed chronic hypertension. They tried to put me on medication. And I was told to quit my work. I've quit my job several times and gone back. My whole work life is very erratic. But all of these things, the stress factors, you have to learn your own ways of managing it. You can go to parents groups and all of that, but your family is unique. Your circumstances are unique. You have to develop a plan for yourself, and you have to cut yourself some slack. There's no perfect parent anywhere. And your child, there's no perfect child anywhere. No child is better than your own child. They are just differently able. Every child is able in a different way. So you just have to accept your child and their abilities. And when you are depressed about things other children are doing, your child cannot do, take that time out. Don't shut it down. Work through it. Come out of it. See the good sides of your child and deal with it. I really did not get any support or in terms of counseling or anything like that. Like Auntie Mary saying, it's very difficult to get people to understand. I think the only way to understand this thing is to actually have a child with special needs, because even if you visit me, you will go home, and still leave me with my situation. So it is very difficult to explain to people, especially those who see your child in their good moments, when you are trying to tell them how bad the bad moments are, they think you are exaggerating. And for me, when you think I'm exaggerating, I get really angry. I get really angry. I want to slap you or something. I want you to just have my child for a week and deal with the meltdowns and see what it is like. So when I'm in that sort of mood, I isolate myself. The problem with people in Ghana, for example, is you isolate yourself. You already don't have access to services. Your situation can get very, very, very bad. I don't have a choice. I'll have to go to church. I'm a pastor. I'll have to counsel others. I'll have to pick myself up out of it eventually. Some people cannot bring themselves out of it. So they get totally unbalanced. And in the UK, your child will be taken from you. So there's certain motivations here, because the system will take your child away from you if you don't sit up. You can't be in denial long term. You can't neglect your child. In fact, denial is a form of abuse. You are denying your child their right to good parenting and good learning and good support because of your own emotional needs. So if you cannot take care of your child, someone else will take care of them for you. Your child will be taken from you. And that was the job. I was in that job, so I understand it perfectly. So I don't allow myself to go too far. I know my child's needs are important. So whatever I have to do to meet those needs, that is what I do. And I said again, I think every special needs mother is slightly unbalanced. I think from the moment you are told your child has this and you have to go through this, something happens. I'm not saying we are crazy or we need to be on medication or something, but with what we go through, I don't think it's possible to be totally correct all the time, because only by God's grace you keep yourself going, right? So counseling as well, even the counselor doesn't understand, unless you go to a counseling with someone who has also gone through the same situation. The teachers don't understand, the doctors don't understand. A doctor called my son retarded in front of my husband, a doctor who should know better. But he was an ear, nose, and throat doctor. My son is slightly deaf in one ear. So we have regular appointments for that. And he was telling my husband, this will not change. Nothing will change. He's retarded. How can a doctor use those words? You see? So if a doctor can talk to you like that, you can imagine which the normal people walking about, they don't understand. You need to get into your child's world. There is nothing wrong with them. They are just in another world, the way your world is normal to you, their world is normal to them. So they are making an effort to live in our world, and we call it socialization. You need to make an effort to get into their world. If you can get into their world and understand what they are going through, you'll be able to help them. Instead of forcing them to do maths, do English, change, be like everybody's child. That is not good. That is child abuse, essentially. And your child will never make progress. I hope I've answered. I've talked a lot.
Yes.
I hope it has answered a few things.
Yes, you have. I mean, it's been very, very insightful, talking about functional learning and not necessarily trying to fit them into the academic learning styles, and at least making the learning part of their day-to-day life. And I think that's very important. Auntie Mary, can you talk about how you dealt with the educational aspect of Nanaya? And then I will come to this. So you've been very public about your journey, and you have a Facebook page, you have a YouTube channel where you kind of document your day-to-day life. And we've seen Nanaya kind of come in the film, and you do that on your channel. Can you talk about kind of when you decided to do that, why you decided to do that, and what has been the effect of that on you and Anaya, and then also the response from people in general?
Thank you very much, Pastor Selassie. You just made my day. You just made my day. You said something and you just put it so right. I couldn't have done that. You can't be totally balanced and do this. Sincerely, you can't. And I can just identify myself, with what you just said. Thank you very much. It hasn't been easy, and there's so much difference between the support you get outside and what we have available here. Now with Nanaya, unfortunately, she has a lot of learning disabilities. So you teach her something today, and it's so difficult for her to generalize it. So for instance, I taught her to call me Mama, and I was so happy. Then she went back to the center, and then her teacher also taught her to call her Miss Jasmine. Now my daughter comes on, I call her Nana, I say Miss Jasmine. I said, Nana, I can't be Miss Jasmine. I am Mama Mary, then she goes, Miss Jasmine. Up till now, I don't know how to correct it. And I said, Nana, this is me. I'm Mary, I'm not Jasmine. So I went back to the class and said, look, Jasmine, you better stop. Whether you have to be called Mary so that I can be called Mary. You can't be called Mary. You can't be totally balanced and do this. But yeah, has learning challenges, and it's so difficult. She was in a mainstream school with a facilitator, somebody we are trained, and she also does the Echolalia, like she started calling the pastor Puiko and all those. But one day she came home, then she came very close to my ear and said, stupid girl, stupid girl, stupid girl. I knew there was somebody at the school who kept telling my daughter she's stupid. So that was the first one, that really got me stuck, like, I need to do something. Now, the second one, I think maybe God wanted this to happen. I was working at a center, a sister center. I worked with them for almost 12 years, supporting children with speech challenges. So, the children at that center where I was working had children up to the age of 12. And I was around 15, 16 years. So usually when I'm going to work in the morning, I would leave her at home. So we had to get somebody to help Nanaya. Then one day, it rained heavily. This was 4 years ago. It was a Wednesday. It rained heavily that day. So I got stuck at the center. I couldn't come up because it was raining heavily. My husband was also having a class and he couldn't also come home. Now, what the agreement we had with this person, whom we had moved into our house, and her job was to take Nanaya by 8 o'clock teach her, and then there's breakout sessions. I had drawn an IEP for her, gone through the targets, things to work on. I had given this person teaching materials, and so she was working on something. So maybe they work on eye contact for 15 minutes. Yeah, gets a break for another 10 minutes. They come back in, and they end it at 1 o'clock. And then by 2 o'clock, I'll be home and I'll take Yah from it. Now, on this particular day, it rained so heavy. And according to her, she was at like the boys' quarters, what we call the out house. And then when it started raining heavily, she thought we were in the house. So she only stood in front of her room and instructed Yah to go. Now, Daddy was not at home. My two boys were not close due to the heavy rains. I was at work. So Yah practically stood, and she also fell asleep, possibly because of the weather and the rains. So apparently Yah left her around 1 o'clock, and she stood in the room between 1 to about 4. That was like 3 hours. So when my husband got to, Yah was shivering. And then, when I got to, it was very sad. That day, I just cried. So the next morning, I just fired her. But it was that very moment I said, no, I need to start looking for a place, no matter the cost. And then I started. So the next day, I didn't go to work. I just served everywhere within the neighborhood, looking for a 3-bedroom house to start, even if it's just a school for only a year, so I can be around it. And that was how, sometimes, God will speak to you to start something, but it's so not convinced. You look at the finances around you and everything. And so maybe this was something God used to push me. But I worked with Yah for a long time. It got to a point I couldn't afford facilitators. I put a flyer at church and then on WhatsApp and said, please, if you can just give us 2 hours of your time within a week, I will train you for free. Please come and support my daughter. I have 3 people from the youth group at church who gave me 3 hours a week. So the 3 of them were giving me 9 hours a week for almost a year. That really helped me, because also stopping work, staying at home, I was getting bored and I started eating. I moved from 53 kilos to 75. Practically, I was just eating. And then you begin to lose your self-confidence, and your children go to school, come back, sometimes practically asking you for things you can't even give. I said no, I needed to start working and do something. So even though it was a collective effort, I just had to stop. We pulled Yah from school, and then we started cliques. Now I tried. I printed words, I laminated them. I read books, I pasted all these on my walls, and you teach her something today, tomorrow it's like you haven't even touched on it. But one of the things I worked on consistently was my own attitude. If nobody else believes in this child, I need to show the world that I believe in Yah. And I remember when I bought a camera and said I was going to create a little studio and start taking pictures. People thought that maybe, this woman is getting crazy. I said, no, if she's not going to talk, I know that someday she would, but if she's not going to talk, at least she's very beautiful, she has very good skin. Let's portray her. Who knows, somebody might sign her on. So I created a small studio at the center where I had started. And I started with only 2 kids with Nanaya. Now we have 87 in less than 4 years. And I started. Then I saved money and I bought my first camera, Nikon camera, the E series. I think we got it for $2,000. That was how crazy. And I was. And I got the photographer and said, look, let's have a deal. Use my camera to do your outside work, but you need to come here and use an hour every day for my daughter. The payment will be to use my camera, but make sure you don't spoil it. If you spoil it, deal close. And so, because this was a good camera, he was using it, and then I'll get him. So he was coming every day. And we did this for 2.5 years, every single day. every single day. We started getting her, to look into the camera. That took about a year, working on eye contact. Which crazy mother would do this? And then it started. So people were seeing all the good pictures, they were commenting and all that. And I thank my husband, he gave me that opportunity to go public. And if you watch my videos, they are not edited. As it happens. It is very difficult. I think even now, people look at all these beautiful pictures and they think that, Yah has arrived. We have a lot of challenges. For the past 2 weeks, I don't know what has happened. Probably her melatonin level is low. She's not sleeping. And by 1 a.m., and the kind of songs that she will sing, you might think that somebody is prompting her. She started with, was it 3 days ago? I'm trading my sorrows. Yes, Lord, yes, Lord. And she'll come and stand in front of me and sing this song to me. And sometimes out of the blue too, it's like maybe her autism left her or something. She would say something. This is within context. Last week she came to me, looked straight in the eye and told me, I don't know whether maybe somebody might have. I just have no idea. But then again, sometimes I see the greatness of God in my daughter. If God could give me 2 boys, my son went to university at the age of 15. And here you are giving me one that could hardly even recognize A. Which kind of God is this? And there are a lot of times that my own faith has been challenged. And again, this very child, God uses to lift me up. So I have come to that part in my life where I just let him have his way. I said, Lord, I need a lot of strength. In fact, more than enough, because it takes a whole village. And I'm so grateful to God. I think because we involved our sons in this, it has really, really helped. We had what we call the Sundays with my sons. It's like a family time where I would commit to cook something that they love. Basically, it's jollof and kebab most of the times. And then we'll sit with them and I said, what would you like to see us do as a family? How can we all collectively support Nanaya? It was actually my son that said, can we, go back to church and then start taking, like this Sunday is Daddy's part to babysit Nanaya, so we can all go to church. The following Sunday, it's me. And sometimes, even if you're going to go to church with her, can somebody be outside and take her hand, go up and down? And so we had to decide, okay, we'll go for the first service. That one takes about 1.5 to 2 hours. So that's something we can basically, do. And that really, really helped. Now that they're already grown, beginning to have their own relationship, we have open conversations. Have you told your girlfriend about my daughter? And one time I asked them, and I know it's every parent also, fears. Sunday, if you are not here, would your wives accept my daughter? And my son will usually tap me on the shoulder and say, woman, relax. When we get there, we'll cross. And I want to see how you cross it. But I think that through it all, autism has really brought us together as a family. Loving without expecting back. Taking in things a day at a time, but also believing that beyond the challenges that we go through, there is a God who cares, regardless. We've gone through a lot, as a family, financially, emotionally, even my own marriage. Sometimes what you go through, the stress can make you sometimes even push your own partner aside. Because you go through all these things, and whether you have a child with autism or not, what you have to do as a wife, isn't it? And there are times that, and I speak from experience, it takes so much toll on you. But then and again, you take a moment to yourself. You give yourself a little. I find a lot of strength in listening to music. I find a lot of strength taking a walk. I find a lot of strength. Sometimes just holding Ya's hand and we run within the neighborhood. Openly, I was able to do this also because my children were not in denial anymore, my husband. And for me, the biggest motivation, if somebody could learn from my experience so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel, why not? And I can confidently tell you that even what you see outside there is just 30%. Sometimes I need to talk, think about my child's privacy and other things, so you can't put everything there. But trust me, even though people think that I'm very open, I can confidently tell you that it is just 30%. Pastor Selassie said something that is so important. Teaching your child to be functional. What is the essence or the importance of a child who can recite 1 to 1,000 and they still don't know the value of 3? Or you ask them to give you 2 and add 3, and you ask them, how many do you have in your hand? And they stare at your face. You want the child to be very functional. The everyday things, to be able to do these things for themselves. Bathing, pasting, and these things that I am mentioning, it can be so difficult, especially if your child has sensory issues. They don't want you to paste them because maybe the feel of the bristles on their, gum is difficult. They don't want to go to the barber to have their hair cut or to braid their hair. Yeah, at a point, they didn't want to wear anything. Look at her, wanting to go naked. Already you are vulnerable and you want to be naked. We might as well join in so that everybody knows that. But it's so difficult. Yet you need to teach her. I need to understand her cognitive level, where she is, how she's functioning, so that even whatever I present, be it social stories, be it the way I talk to her, she loves music, and sometimes I can reach to her through music. Now that she's calling me Miss Jasmine, probably I must start singing my name. This is Mary, anything that you can do to support your child, it is so worth it. I say that no matter the good therapist you have in your life, at one point in time, they will leave. Even if they don't leave, they'll go on retirement. But you remain very constant. And I think here too, faith also plays a role. Believing in God, believing that all things will work for your good. If you are a Christian, it does really help. I think we need to do a lot of work within the churches, especially in Ghana. Can we train the Sunday school teachers? Things like sensory issues is something that we hardly talk about. Can they understand these things? Teaching learning materials, appropriate teaching learning materials, we can send, Y'all love to have something in your hand all the time. Fidgeting toys. These are things that can really bring some calmness into your child's life. Can we learn or share this information with people so they can understand? One thing I want parents to know, that even as you tell yourself, you don't want people to know. Trust me, they already know. It's just that you haven't heard it. No matter how you hide, they suspect something. It's just that they don't have the confidence to tell. And sometimes it is better for them to hear it from you than to hear it from outside. We moved into a neighborhood, a new neighborhood, and we have a WhatsApp group. I quickly posted a picture of my daughter and wrote what she does and some of the challenges I have. Should any of you or any of them see her, sneaking around, or maybe, because sometimes it does happen, they wander around. At least they'll know that, oh, okay, her mom spoke about this, so they will look out for it. And it's been very helpful. Of course, not everybody can go that open, but I think that sometimes as you also, talk to people, open up, you do get some support. And some people, God will bring some people your way that will truly understand your child.
Thank you so much. I could sit here and listen to you guys all day. Unfortunately, our time is even past. The time is past. But I will let everybody kind of say their final words, and then we will wrap up. But I think this is a very good learning experience, and for those who are listening, especially if you are a pastor or if you are a leader in a church, to understand that it's not everything that requires deliverance or what Auntie Mary talked about, the aquanture, where, she had to go to the river to go and bath at a certain, time of night and all those things. These are real things that affect families, and these families need support. And sometimes when we wrap it in a spiritual cloud, we make the denial that we've talked about, we prolong that denial, and it hurts the children and it hurts the families. And so I think it's very important that we need information and we need knowledge. And because of that, I think, we're going to come back with a part two where we'll have Pastor Jacqueline, kind of talk about, do a presentation about some of the things that people can do to help children with special needs. And for those listening, you may not have a child with special needs yourself, but you may know someone that has it. And please understand that there are certain comments that you make that may be very hurtful to the children and also to the parents that are dealing, or the families that are dealing with these challenges. And so you have to understand. If you don't understand, go read about it. Just like Auntie Mary said, she had to, Google and learn a lot of things on her own. Go learn things and then see how you can support them rather than, to make hurtful comments. So I think that's important. So, Pastor Jacqueline, I'll let you have, a couple of minutes for your last words, and then we'll go to Pastor Selassie and then Auntie Mary, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure. Thank you very much. It's been a very wonderful time. I am really, really, I've learned a lot from these parents, because as an educator, I am on one end of it and they live with it every day. And so I am so glad that we've had such a great opportunity to listen to what is actually happening on the ground. I thank everyone who's been listening to us. I pray that we will all be able to help try and understand what special needs really is, because it takes a toll on everybody. So don't, like our host said, don't put yourself in a position where you hurt the people even more. Don't add more weight to the families, to what the families are already carrying. And one of the things that I would say is that if you're a kind person and you want to support with something, like Auntie Mary mentioned, in a place like Ghana where speech therapy, which is very much needed, is so expensive. If you can part with a donation or something, find a center like hers and donate to the center so that they can have a bank, some reservoir available for those who might need it and not even have it. And I believe that that level of kindness will go a very long way. So let us consider, sharing in with them and helping people who actually need it when they need it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pastor Selassie. Your last words.
Oh, I've been so inspired. Auntie Mary, I watch you on Facebook, and I know we've met through my husband and the work you do with him. You are such an inspiration, and we all love Nanaya. My son isn't on Facebook, and he is on Facebook. He's not. We are not sort of in the public view as much as you are. But I want to just use this opportunity to encourage you and encourage all the other parents with children on the spectrum. I look at my son and I see a walking miracle. If you notice, I could not answer what made the difference from that little boy of 4 who was nonverbal, could not get his voice out, to the young man that I actually asked him whether he wants to come on so people will see him. I told him that I will be talking about him because he will be hearing me upstairs. And all the stuff that he has gone through, the stuff we've gone through, people calling him stupid or he feeling stupid and coming to ask me, Mom, there are times you come home and say, Mom, just take my autism away. I don't want it anymore. I don't want it anymore. And he'll be marching up and down, and I won't know how to help him. And I used to tell him that, Zane, do like I do. Look at the other side of it. Don't just look at the negative side. So I rehearse with him. I ask him, look at what are the things that you can do that other people cannot do. Then I give him an example. I can solve math equations and problems like you can do. He has a really good memory. I haven't got that. He, amongst all my children, this is, I don't even understand. He himself comes and he tells me, tell me, I won't tell anybody. I am your favorite child. Am I not your favorite child? You know, he is very sensitive to me. And it is very odd because when he was growing up, when he was little, there was no emotion, there was nothing. But as he has grown and he's learning and all this is happening, if he is very sensitive to my moods, he will come and hug me. He will tell me, Mom, you haven't told me you love me today, but I love you. You know, when my father died, I was crying at home. All my other children avoided me. He would knock on my door almost every 10 minutes and ask me whether I'm still crying. You know, so there is a side, a whole side of this that if you don't come out of the other side, you cannot enjoy. And it is like a missing key. No one knows what the exact key is. But as you keep giving your child the best, something in them unlocks. Something in them unlocks, and you will see a whole other side of them. So I want to encourage the parents, don't give up. Keep doing those functional things, and you will be surprised. Look at my son, he is talking. Sometimes his words get jumbled up, but you will not recognize him from that boy that he used to be. And I don't think all the credit goes to me. The credit goes to the family, to the experts that were involved, most importantly to God. Because I remember there were times that I would pray and I would say, God, take this away. And God said, you need to move your mind from where it's at, thinking that nothing good can come out from your son, to thinking that he is a blessing. And the more you think it's a blessing, you will see things unfolding. And true to his word, he is a different young man. He's a proper young man. Sometimes when he calls it daydreaming, when he's doing the flapping and he's in the mirror and he's doing that, and he has learned how to limit that mostly to doing it at home. When he's doing that and someone is walking across, he stops. And I tell him, saying, that is your thing. Don't be embarrassed. Do it. I understand. I know you can't do it at church as much as you want to do it. You can't do it elsewhere as much as you want to. But I know we might not understand why you're doing it, but that's you. Own it. Okay, so let's not be embarrassed by the things our children do. You're in public and he's swinging, he's doing all that, he's running around. It is something that they can't control. Learn to accept them for who they are. Don't be embarrassed because they can see it when you are embarrassed, when you are hiding from them. Be proud of them, showcase them, and say the good things that they are doing. The more you do that, the more good things will happen to you. I'll just say it on this note. This is one thing I learned from one support group, parent support group I went to. The one woman gave a story. She said that having a child with autism is like you book a ticket to travel to a sunny island on holiday, and then only to arrive and see that you are in a place called Holland. Maybe you book a ticket to go to Jamaica or Barbados, only for the plane to land, and you realize that it took you to the wrong place, to Holland. What do you do? Your ticket is spent. As you walk around Holland and as you begin to look at the site, you will see that Holland isn't a very bad place at all. It also has its attractions. It also has its good points. So if you are a parent with a child with autism, begin to enjoy the things about your child that are positive, and don't be always focused on the negative side. And I want to encourage especially our African communities, our pastors, this stigmatization and labeling, and your child is demonized, and what happened and what did you do? Let's just stop it. Let's just stop it now. Put yourself in the shoes of the parents or the family and think, how will you feel if that was you? We had a visiting pastor who did not know that our son was our son, come to our church, and when he was doing his stuff, called him forward and started doing deliverance in the church, in our own church, and started prophesying, say, whose child is this? The devil really wanted to spoil you. You have a lot of problems. And eventually told them that is our child. And this pastor is someone, they don't have any child. They are also in waiting. I was so angry, I almost cursed him. I almost cursed him in my heart. I almost told God, just as I waited and you gave me this child, give them one like this so that someone will do deliverance on their child where they eventually have their child. But you have to be careful that bitterness does not develop in you, that you do not become a version of yourself that is totally confused and your whole life is not right. Our children are blessings. Let them be the blessings that they are. And there's a perseverance in them. There's something in, I don't know whether all the parents know this or see it in their children, but I see it in mine. I don't know if it's all children on the spectrum, but they are fighters. They don't give up. There's something in them that doesn't die easily. My son is like that. He will persevere till he does what everyone says he cannot do. So let's walk with them along that journey and let's not give up. And everyone, like Jackie said, support as much as you can. Auntie Mary, when I come to Ghana, I'll try and see what support I can also offer. I do have a lot of expertise. I try to separate, when you work in an area and it's also your private life, it becomes so jumbled. Sometimes you want to leave it and just not be in that. So that happens to me. But all this expertise, and when we come to Ghana, at least we know you are there. There are a whole lot of people listening to us, I think, who are experts and who travel back home. Let's all join our hands and let's form structured services. For example, services for assessments, all right, proper assessments, so that parents will actually know what they are dealing with instead of someone just telling them your child may have autism. And it might not be autism at all. It might be something else totally. So thank you very much, Doctor, for having me on here. I am honored and I've enjoyed being here. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Auntie Mary, your last words, and then we will wrap up.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lai, and to everyone for having me. I'm so grateful. I have also learned a lot. Thank you so much. I think Pastor Selassie has said most of the things. What I would add is, in the sight of God, like I said earlier, there are no disabled souls. This child that God has blessed you with, there's something good in that child. But it will start from you, the parent, to begin to shift your focus from what you want it to be to what God wants it to be. And at that moment, you begin to see the good in your child. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for watching us. And it's been a wonderful time. And hopefully we'll come back again with the part 2. And so stay tuned. Thank you all. Goodbye. Can you guys please stay on for a second?
Support the GWM Mission to Africa 2022. To God be the glory. The Global Wisdom Missions, GWM, is embarking on an international missions trip to East Africa and Southern Africa in 2022. The missions trip shall include the hosting of the Intermission Mission Conference, the School of Ministry, the Medical Mission, and the Clean Water Borehole Project. The programs are scheduled to be hosted in the city of Kitwe in Zambia and the city of Nairobi in Kenya. In these international mission conferences, Global Wisdom Missions will bring together thousands of pastors, leaders, and ministers of the gospel from both regions to train them in a 5-day school of ministry in the Ministers Training Seminar. Global Wisdom Missions has the vision of reaching out to young Christian leaders, ministers, and pastors with the purpose of preserving the purity and integrity of the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. The mission to East and Southern Africa in 2022 will be critical because it will be the first of its kind since GWM was founded in June 2020. Following the pattern of our Lord Jesus Christ of preaching, teaching, and healing, Global Wisdom Missions will undertake additional socially responsive programs to bring healing and hope to the communities struggling with poverty, sicknesses, and diseases. Considering this, GWM will travel with medical doctors and health officials from the United States of America, USA, United Kingdom, UK, and Europe, who will volunteer to offer free treatments to thousands of sick people in both regions. Additionally, the GWM will construct a clean water borehole for the selected villages in both regions where they do not have access to clean water. In view of the above projects, the Global Wisdom Missions, GWM, is asking for your financial support and donation to make these missions and projects a possibility. Find a place in your heart to give your financial and material support to this international mission and charitable project. Your donations will lighten our burden and make our work possible. We remain eternally grateful for your ongoing support. To donate, please visit www.globalwisdommissions.com or donate via PayPal at wisdomconference3@gmail.com. Thank you.